All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the weekly live WSO live session. It is, 12:10 Pacific on February 1st. Welcome, everyone. I am streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and IG, I think. We'll see if this works. So last week, it seemed to work pretty well. We'll see if we get a similar audience this time. Amir, are you seeing me there?
Not yet on IG. You went live on Yellow Duck?
No. That's probably why. Start broadcasting. Okay, cool. And so we're live there. Did you see us live on LinkedIn and YouTube?
LinkedIn, it shows me yes.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. We're starting to see some.
And we're live on IG.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Getting a couple comments. Hey, Raphael. Hi, Nishant. Hi, Boyko. How are you? Hey, Nishant. Yeah, go ahead. Let's start right off. Nishant says he needs some advice for his interview. Go for it. Shoot. I'm here for questions. I'm here to help. Hi, Sarah. I will see if I can open up the IG chat on the side as well, so I can kind of keep an eye on people come streaming in through IG. It's a little bit of a crazy setup here because some time in StreamYard I can see some questions here from LinkedIn and some from Facebook, but I can't see the IG ones as easily. So I'll try to be responsive to IG too. Hi, Chinwiki. Hi, Boyko. So all right, let's get started. Hi from Wisconsin, Chase. Let's see. So let's just start with Zane here. So as a first year, I'm trying to build my understanding of investment terminology. How would you go about that? I would actually read a lot of the articles in the resource section of Wall Street Oasis. We have a huge resource, thousands of articles on specifically sales and trading, investing. So just getting like used to the lingo is probably the best way to just learn, and understanding all the definitions of all that, I think, is probably the best way to go. You can also take a lot of introductory courses. We have free crash courses. I don't know if you can just put in the chat the link to our free crash courses under our courses. So for anyone who wants to check that out, the free crash courses are a great place to start for Excel modeling, venture capital modeling. We have a free crash course on financial statement modeling, even real estate. So there's a lot there that's just totally free. So I would start there, improve some of your knowledge just on and skill sets there. But then if you want to just learn, I would go to the wallstreetoasis.com/resources, and you'll see there's a ton of information there, and some great articles written on everything around investment terminology and sales and trading, investment banking, private equity, hedge funds, and whatnot. So let's see here. Some good questions. Nishant is asking this. So this is a good example of like where I don't want to overstep what I do and what I don't know. I have a super day with Goldman Sachs for quant strat. Give some guidance about resources and all what to expect. Honestly, Nishant, I'm probably not the best person. I would go to the forums and ask specifically. So number one, I would, ask specifically what to expect there on a super day. Number two, I would go look in the company database, see if there's any interview insights in the WSO company database for that specific group at Goldman, or for other quant strat groups at other bulge bracket banks, because the questions might be similar there, and either way, it'll give you a good sense of what to expect. So for people who don't know what the company database is, we have collected, I think over the last 10 years, last decade, we've collected upwards of over 100,000 user submissions, of which about half are like salary data. The other half is mostly interview insights or interview questions. So we have a huge database of questions across thousands of firms that you can dig into. So I would check that out. Again, I'll put it in or Amir, if you can put it in the link to the actual to the company database rather, then I think that would be helpful for everybody so they can check it out. Mayank asks, I have a question. How can I switch my career to valuations? I'm working as a senior accountant right now. So I think in terms of how to switch any career to any from one to any other. It's really going to be about who you know and showing that you have the skill set. So I would first off take a lot of courses in valuation, financial modeling, that type of stuff, discounted cash flow. So we have a discounted cash flow modeling course. We have a valuation course which teaches you precedent and trading comps. I would recommend taking those or taking any, or even our free crash courses that I mentioned earlier. I would take those and basically try to like demonstrate that on your CV, on your resume, show it on your, make sure that that's very clear that you have that skill set. And then once you have that done and you put in that legwork, which shouldn't take you more than like, say 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then I'd start networking heavily, talking to as many people as you can who are already in the seat that you want to get into and asking, hey, you know, what should I do? Ask this exact same question. Hey, what would you think is the best step to switch my career to what you're doing in transaction advisory services or valuation services or fairness opinions or whatnot? And so if you're talking to those people who are already doing the role, they'll kind of help you get a better roadmap. But really it's going to just be about who you know. First, you know, developing the skill set, demonstrating that you ask good detailed questions to show that you know what they're doing at their job. You'll be surprised how many people show up to an interview, don't even know really what the job's about or what they're doing day to day. There's really no excuse. I guess there is some excuse. For some jobs, it's still very, very hard to find information. But for most jobs, you can find really great detailed information about what the day-to-day is like nowadays. So you should do that research before you go into these informational interviews with these people on LinkedIn, or from wherever you find them that are kind of sitting in the seat that you want to sit in. And then from there, kind of just demonstrate with the questions you're asking how knowledgeable you are about the job. And that alone will probably make them feel more comfortable recommending you when a slot does open up. And then you'll start hearing about opportunities that you otherwise would never have heard of. Hina asks, where do we find the free courses? I think Amir, just keep posting. You keep posting this, or I don't know if you can reply specifically to people. It's under wallstreetoasis.com/courses. Under there's paid courses there, but there's a section called free crash course or free courses. And there's a bunch of free crash courses there that you can sign up for. So let's see what else is going on. I don't know what happens when I star these questions. So maybe I'll star that. So if anybody has that same question as they're joining later on, they can ask. We got about, we got a decent crew here everywhere. Hey, we got a question from Long G over at YouTube. So it says, hi, Patrick, I currently work as a first-year consulting associate at a Big Four firm. I want to pivot to private equity in the long term. What are my chances and how best can I go about doing this? So your chances are low, just to be frank. But when you say private equity, there's a very long tail of lower middle market private equity funds where your chances are much better. It's going to be very hard for you to get into a upper middle market or a mega fund, unless it's not impossible, but it's going to be incredibly difficult with that background. It doesn't mean that you can't go from the Big Four, then jump to, let's say, investment banking, and then get into an on-cycle recruiting process. So the best, most tried and true path would be for you to go from Big Four, try to get into transaction advisory services, TAS. That develops your valuation skill set. Then from there, you would jump to an investment bank that has a decent on-cycle recruiting process, i.e. Private equity funds are actually trying to recruit the analysts out of that bank. And then from there, being ready for the private equity interview process. So investment banking is the kind of most tried and true path to get into private equity. So trying to lateral into an investment bank is kind of your best bet. But to do that from a Big Four, usually you need to be in the transaction advisory services group before you're going to get any serious looks. That being said, stepping back, nothing is impossible. So, when people always ask me, what are my chances? I'm like, well, how hard are you willing to work? Because if you're willing to treat your job search like a second job and put in 30 to 50 hours a week on the job search and the networking, I say your chances over several years is actually very solid. Like if you were gung-ho, like private equity, I know I want to be an investor. I know I want to be in this asset class. It's super interesting to me. And I don't care if I'm in lower middle market or whatnot. if that's what you're saying, then I'd say your chances are actually pretty good because over time, as long as you get comfortable with networking, you get comfortable with talking to people, and you develop the right skill set in terms of financial modeling, you show that you're a wizard in Excel, you show that you have good business sense and strategy sense, then I think, I'm never kind of put a cap on anyone. The difference is most people just give up before they get there because they send out a few hundred messages on LinkedIn. They only get 1 or 2 responses back and they feel defeated. When that's actually a totally normal response rate. You got to be really good at getting rejected over and over and over again to make it. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Longji, hopefully I didn't mess up your name too badly. Ashwini says, hi there. Is there any idea about a recession? How will the job market perform in 2023? Will there be a better job market coming in? I think pretty interesting data coming out. Seems like inflation is trending in the right direction now. We've had obviously many reports, CPI, PPI, everything coming in where a few times now kind of under what was expected, which is nice to see for once. And so if the Fed kind of can take their foot off the gas on the interest rates a little bit, I think it may actually lead to a relatively stronger back half of 2023. However, my concern, and what I think a lot of people have expressed, is that if they do that, does inflation just explode again right in our face? So I think that's what they're trying to avoid, is this double dip where inflation looks like it's coming under control. They let off the gas a little bit too early, and then we get the second spike, the second wave of inflation. And so if I had to guess, I'm guessing there's probably kind of somewhere in between there. So yeah, it'll probably be a pretty tough job market this year, maybe with a little bit of an acceleration of the labor market's still pretty tight, at least here in the US. So maybe, back half of 2023, it's a little bit easier to get a job, but then maybe we head into a more serious recession in 2024 if the Fed has to re-accelerate interest rate hikes again to get inflation back under control. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we can get inflation down and the economy can keep growing, but that's kind of the goal. Amir, looks like I just got logged out of Insta. I don't know if I'm still live there, but anyways, we can keep going with this group here. Now, this is an interesting question. Do I think ChatGPT can hamper finance job opportunities? In the current iteration of ChatGPT, I do not see it hindering many opportunities. I see it really impacting the lower level content generation, SEO writing opportunities more, and marketing. I see it more as an accelerator, allowing people to do more and more work. I mean, you just look back when the computer, when laptops kind of started coming out and becoming commonplace in analyst bullpens, the class sizes didn't decrease. It just made them more on call. It just made the expectations go up in terms of how much work they could do. When spreadsheets, when Excel came around, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is going to allow them to fire 80% of the class. Well, that didn't happen. It just allowed them to pitch 1,000 times more, do 1,000 times more scenarios than what they had done before. So I usually think, technology like this is very scary, especially ChatGPT, because it's I think it does have probably the most disruption and displacement potential of anything we've seen in a very long time. But rather than hamper job opportunities, I think it's probably more of an impact on SEO, on search, on Google, on how people kind of interact with AI, and specifically how they're getting kind of their day-to-day queries answered. So I'd be more worried if I was Google than a finance or early finance career person. So yeah, I see it more as an accelerator for now, rather than a huge threat. The Bull says, holy smokes, the legend himself, so many questions. Well, then fire away, man. I am here for you. Let's see here. Yeah, free courses. I'm going to post this so people know where they are. Here we go. This is a good question from Vicente Noregullo. How difficult is it to move from a small local boutique IB to a big bank? Vicente, depends on deal flow, depends on in this market, probably a little bit harder. If you had talked to me in 2020, 2021, if you had a pulse, the big bank probably would have taken you. If you had a boutique IB experience, if you had some deal experience, and if you had any sort of banking background or modeling prowess, they were desperate for people because there was a crazy amount of deal flow. So it really just depends on kind of when you're actually looking to go. Right now, it's going to be a little bit harder, but again, it's going to come down to who you know at the banks. Who are you meeting at the big banks? And then more importantly, at the small local boutique, do you have a year under your belt? Do you have any transactions under your belt? Or are you just doing like PowerPoint logos and pitches? Or do you have any kind of actual financial analysis that you've done in that first year? Have you done any pitch? Have you done any M&A transactions? Have you done any sell side, buy side, whatever kind of group you're trying to get into? I think that's really going to be a bigger determinant. But yeah, that happens all the time. Smaller local boutiques, kind of lateraling to a bigger brand name, a larger bulge bracket bank, or even an elite boutique. And that's kind of what I suggested to someone earlier in the call when they were asking getting into private equity. It's kind of potentially a good first step is to go lateral to a stronger brand name and get into the on-cycle recruiting process. Now, the banks don't like this because it's, they're often seen as a stepping stone. But it is something that, looking out for yourself, looking out for your career, I think it's potentially a good move for you if you can do it. Let's see what else we got here. Emil is asking about how well I know Elantra. I've spoken with Elantra several times in London. I think I don't know too much about like their deal flow or anything there. How would you advise an upcoming graduate master's from going into investment banking? Hey, Emily. So I think it would be basically similar to any other advice I'd give in terms of, if you're trying to go into London, I would try to get there as soon as you can. And so you can actually meet people face to face. It's so much more powerful than like a Zoom call or, at least Zoom's better than just voice, but I think it's so much better when you're sitting across from somebody and you're building that relationship that way. So I think if you can get there, great. It's going to allow you to kind of meet people, network well. And London's a little bit more regimented in terms of how they do their recruiting, but who still matters a great deal. So, that's what I would recommend. Just try to get there, or if you can't get there, try to at least do as many calls as you can with people who are working in the firms that you want to work at. And so, yeah, good luck. Good luck with the move. I have no idea. Here we go. I think that was you, Amir, with that comment. Taxes are memes.
Yep.
I like it.
That was Raphael.
Yeah. Let's see here. What else do we have? Let's see if we have free courses here for you guys. This is actually the main courses page, but if you scroll down the page a little bit, there's a free courses section. Actually, Amir, if you want to put that straight link in there, if you scroll down on that page, the /courses page, there should be a link directly to say all free courses. Let's put that one in the chat so people can kind of just get there more easily.
Sure.
Clark asked a good question. Clark says, any thoughts on how to stay positive, focused when turnover is high at your firm? Yes, I think it's super hard, first off. So when you're seeing friends and colleagues get let go, and oftentimes the expectation is like, you're lucky to have your job, and it can be a little bit more stressful because you don't know what's going to happen from day to day, hour to hour. I think the best thing you can do is just be thankful that you are still there. Be thankful for the learning opportunities, and be less focused on the near-term compensation. Maybe the bonuses are lower. It's kind of frustrating because you're thinking, oh, I thought that bonus was coming. Try to just focus on the learning opportunities, on building relationships with mentors in your firm, with that, for the people who are there. Try to build those relationships, because I think they can kind of usually be a person to lean on when you're kind of feeling like a little bit stressed out. I mean, you don't want to be going to them and crying about or whining about X, Y, and Z all the time. But if you can find a couple people that you can truly confide in at work, where they do take you under their wing. They're trying to see that you can see that they actually care about your development. That's probably the best way, because it's just going to make going to work that much more pleasant and kind of help kind of move on from all the more depressing stuff that's going on. Cricket Man 1 says, are you going to be adding any more free crash courses? Cricket Man, tell me what you guys want, and maybe we'll add some more crash courses. We did a bunch. But yeah, here's the link for people who are looking. Courses/free online classes is the link. I don't know if people can click it directly, but here we go. Devin Patel asks the all-important question that there's probably 100,000 discussions on Wall Street Oasis about this. So I'm not going to be, reinventing anything here. The best way to go about landing in any internships at a semi-non-target anywhere in the world is just about developing real relationships. So people have this word networking. Networking just means developing real if you're doing it right, it means developing real relationships. And that means being proactive about who you're meeting and not just hoping a resume drop is going to get you an internship. Because especially if you're coming from a non-target, it's not. It's just not going to happen. I think there's probably the response rate on a resume drop into a black hole, what I would call the black hole of resume drops, is about under 1% especially from a non-target for these top firms. If you have like a high GPA, 3.8 GPA from a target school, even for those people, the response rate tends to be under 5%. So now you're talking non-target, say 3.5 GPA, like you're just in this huge, you just get lost in this huge pile, all these submissions, thousands of submissions. Do you think someone's actually going through all of those that are coming in? Probably not. Or do you think the HR people are cutting corners because it's easier to interview the person from that the other analysts recommended that they went to school with, or that the VP wants because it's from their alma mater, or that whatnot? Who do you think they're going to try to please most? Probably their colleagues, not the faceless person that submitted their resume from XYZ university that means nothing to them. So I think if you take anything to heart, it's that nobody cares about your piece of paper, your resume. You have to develop real relationships where people are trying to pull for you, and they say, okay, well, this guy's he speaks well, he seems knowledgeable, he's not, if I recommend him, he's not going to embarrass me. He seems kind and humble. He doesn't seem like he's entitled to anything. He's ready to work hard. He understands the job really well. He understands the industry and what's expected. He's going to stick around. He's not going to just use this as a stepping stone. All these things, if you can convey them in an actual informational interview or a call with someone that's a cold call, I think all these are positives that stack up and increase your odds of someone actually passing on your resume. And that's where you get the interviews, and that's where you get the internships. It's not the resume drops, especially from a non-target. I mean, you should always start with alum. You should always kind of be but you got to be putting in that work in order to get lucky. I'll put in quotes because it's not really luck. It's just hard work. And just the numbers eventually work in your favor. Here we go. Joe asks, what's the best exit opportunity from Big Four audit to advisory positions? Well, I'm not sure if you're asking what the best exit is from Big Four to advisory, usually transaction advisory services, and usually to investment banking. That's the most common. They said to ask, is LinkedIn direct messaging the best way to create a relationship as a student? I think it's the easiest way because it's the most efficient for you. I think emails are better if you can get the emails. So I think a better way to go about it is you use LinkedIn to make the connection. Once they're connected to you, there's actually you can get the email off of the profiles. And so then you start building up a large email database. You should be using a tool like Right Inbox or Boomerang. You should be having set emails for different groups of people. So we have all this in our networking course where we have a networking tracker. You should be tagging and tagging all of your leads, all of your contacts, all of the people who potentially are working in the industry that you want to, with different different things. So for example, alumni tag, the next one could be like, let's say you want to work in M&A tag at this bank, M&A tag at this bank, TMT or product industry group at this bank. So that way, when you're setting up your templates, you can kind of pull from those groupings to make your templated emails where you're sending, let's say 5 or 6 or 7 really quickly in a row. You can make them faster, but look more tailored. So it's just it's a great way to increase your response rate, your hit rate. But yeah, I would suggest emails better, because then you can actually put in using Write Inbox. Write Inbox is just like a reminder thing. So if nobody responds, let's say in 3 weeks or in a week, you can re-hit them with a small one-liner like, hey, just wondering if you got a chance to read this. Understand you're super busy, but really appreciate 5 to 10 minutes of your time. I'm free, and I'll work around your schedule. I'm free whenever is good for you. And if you prioritize that and you can kind of get on some phone calls, I think it'll be, number one, great for your relationship building, but almost more importantly than all that, it's actually be great for your interview skills, because you get used to asking questions. You get used to actually talking about yourself, talking about your resume, talking about what you're interested in. And then you'll get better at honing that. Hopefully you're reading Wall Street Oasis, you're reading the forums, so you actually understand what the jobs are about. And then, then you're golden. After you do about 50 of those, you're going to be about 10 times better than you would have been if you go into an interview cold. So Alejandro asks, hey, do you have any one-to-one interview help? So yes, I do. Let me see if I can share my screen. Maybe I can share my screen.
I posted the link of the mentors.
You did? Yeah, I kind of want to show people the mentors here, because I think it's, oh, here we go. Present, share screen. Let's see if this messes it up. Okay, share screen. This might really mess things up. If it does, then I'll just get rid of it. But if we go here, yeah, by the way, this new news, we just launched a credit forum. So yeah, if you go up here in, Amir, can you see my screen?
Yes.
You can see me. So yeah, if you go up here under training, career, you go to mock interviews or career consultations, you get placed into this mentor service that we have. It's basically just a platform for people like college students, young finance professionals to find find mentors to help them with mock interviews, career consultations, and the like. We changed this about 6 months ago, where we became more of a platform. We have a much lower take rate. So the people looking to be a mentor, if you're interested in that, you can click on this link right here. We require at least 1 year minimum work experience. And then you set your prices in terms of what you require to be paid. And then we just feature people here. There's over 1,000 certified WSO mentors in here right now. So you can filter by, industry, experience level, locations, or even just keywords from their profiles. So you can find, sometimes people are more expensive. So for example, this director in banking is, $267 for 30 minutes, but there's people where you can get on a call for, let's see. Yeah, for $37, someone from a private equity investment manager for $37, first year associate, new mentor, $37 in PE. So like some pretty cost-effective way to get people on the phone and kind of have them invested. Let me stop sharing here. Yeah, have them invested in your development and maybe give you some good insight. Is that helpful, Alejandro? So I'm actually listed in there too, but I've priced myself pretty high just because I'm drowning. I can't even catch up with my emails. Emily said, please do more mock interviews like the ones with Grace. Okay, that's noted. So if you guys want, I am looking to find more mentees. So if you guys are open, I think I only have like Victor that I'm actively doing, and Grace I'm still doing occasional sessions, but that's good to know that the mock interviews was helpful. Are there any certifications you suggest for undergrads? So I think it's good to develop, I think you should absolutely develop a strong skill set in undergrad if you can, outside, whether it's over the summer or whatnot, and feature it on your resume. We do have certifications that are granted when you complete courses in our platform that you can feature on LinkedIn and whatnot. There's a lot of places that do this. How much weight it actually holds is debatable, but I think it's much more about how you write the bullets around that experience. So like if you were to say completed, financial statement modeling course with Wall Street Oasis, it's like, okay, great. But if you actually have a really strong bullet where you quantify the work you put in and you say something along the lines of self-taught over 200 hours of self-study in financial modeling, valuation, Excel modeling, blah, blah, blah. And so you really like show that you're confident in that. I think it just holds a lot more weight. So it's all about how you frame it. But yeah, I would suggest getting those certifications just because, especially if you're from a non-target or you're from let's say like a history major or a different major, it kind of helps make your resume, your CV a little bit more finance oriented, which is good. See what else we got. Good question here. Tips on introducing yourself, elevator pitch to, for example, the directors you're networking with for the first time. Hi, Anna. So yeah, I think we want to keep it short here. So walk me through, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. I think you want to just give them a short summary of like, yeah, I'm a sophomore at XYZ University. I'm majoring in this. I'm really interested in, I'm trying to determine, what I'm most interested in, whether it's, investment banking and M&A or this group, or I'm actually kind of interested in restructuring. That's why I'm talking to you. Like if the person was in restructuring. So I was hoping to learn more about like what the day-to-day was like. I was hoping to, so really just what you want to do is turn it from like a pitch where it's like you're selling yourself into more of a conversation where you're finding similarities and commonalities. So like if you can, let's say you're talking to them, not because they're alums from your school, then you'd want to kind of bring up, talk more about the school, and they may be more curious, like, oh, how is everything at XYZ? This professor, did you have this professor, stuff like that? And that makes it more of a conversation and more of a relationship rather than like it being a super formal interview. These finance professionals are working sometimes 80, 100-hour weeks. They don't necessarily want to go sit with somebody for 20, 30 minutes that are going to be like trying to sell them hard on why they're the best financial modeler in the world. They want somebody that they can sit in what's called the airport test. So they want to sit with somebody who they feel like they could survive if their plane was delayed or if they were stuck on a long flight, that they would enjoy the conversation. So I think that's probably more important for those. And I think the types of questions you ask is more telling in terms of how much work you've done or homework you've done prior, to show that you know what they do, to show that you understand what their firm does, what their group does. And that's going to shine through more than like perfecting your pitch in a sense. So like you should really think about your questions and what the specific questions you want to ask that specific person, rather than having like a generic question like, tell me about the culture of XYZ firm. They're going to be like, roll their eyes. Oh, come on. Like, is that really what you want to ask me? So I think that's what I'd suggest. Nicholas says, do more weekly intern meeting podcasts. Oh man, you guys have a lot of requests. I don't know. I'll try. We'll try to record some more of those, get them up. We have one, I think tomorrow. No, one on Friday. So we'll get one up there. We are also doing this new kind of format. We're doing weekly, the top weekly discussions in the forums, which is kind of fun too. Matt asks, is it possible to go from law school to IB or PE? Absolutely. And Matt, I would suggest looking into restructuring. They value the law degree a little bit more, but it's definitely going to be an uphill battle because they'd be like, why didn't you go get an MBA or at least a JD MBA? So if you just have the JD, then I would suggest, you may have to go get an MBA or at least a master's in finance. If you strike out with all the networking and all that other stuff. Like, I think for this is a perfect example for you, the value of having like the financial modeling courses and all that stuff, like front and center on your CV, actually does provide a lot of value, because you're trying to like de-emphasize your law stuff to say, hey, no, I'm ready, I can do it. And I still think it's going to make it really hard for you to be competitive, especially at the middle markets and the bulge brackets. Like they're not even going to they're most likely not even going to look at you unless you have a friend there and like they vouch for you or whatever. And that, again, networking. So if you're really striking out there a lot, you could just go downstream to smaller little tiny boutique shops, local boutiques, two to three man or woman shops that are doing, you know, a little bit of deal flow just to try to get some deal experience. So if you're really passionate about going into IB, then that's the route I would take. You know, you may have to take a pay cut. You may have to like be very humble and do this, but it's all about building your CV so that you can actually leverage the deals you have on your resume. So once you have a few transactions on your CV, you have a little bit of finance-y jargon lingo because you've taken some financial modeling courses, and the JD is kind of just one line at the bottom, and your undergrad is there. Then people aren't going to care as much. They're going to be like, can this guy do the job or not? And is he going to be efficient? And so that's what I would suggest. Like, yes, it's absolutely possible. I've seen it all the time. So not all the time. It's not the easiest jump to make because you're always going to get that question in the interviews of why law school. But I think if you just say it interests you, you're really fascinated by the law and but you know, you feel like your skill set's better suited for finance, and that's why you're making this transition. So I think you'd need to be a little bit more kind of nuanced and polished than the answer I just gave you, but you get the idea. Let's see what goes here. Yeah, I always have a fun time with these. So thanks for everybody for joining. I'll try to take a couple more before we get off. Let's see. Oh, good question here. Is the Wall Street Oasis internship program only limited to people currently in school? No, it's open to anyone and everyone. So we have an internship program where a finance research internship. Can you, Amir, can you post that into the chat as well for people to see where they can apply? It's an unpaid internship. We basically pay people with courses as they complete it. So it's a great way though to build up the CV because you're getting the courses for free, but then you're also doing like you're writing about financial topics. So it looks really good in terms of building that out because then you can like you can pick specific topics, for example, like Excel modeling. You can be like, I wrote about these 10 functions, and suddenly it makes your CV look like you're like an Excel guru, which is great for people kind of trusting that you kind of know your stuff. So in the sense of like the value it adds, I think it's huge. We actually, you know what I want to show people? I just got a message from somebody. We call this hype. Intern hype. I call this intern hype. Let me see if I can pull it into my screen and then show you guys. I'm going to read this. This is going to read like a sales testimony. This is a real email I got from the other day as to show you guys or gals here. Let's see. Window. How do I do this? Yeah, let me share this. So it says, Dear Mr. Patrick, I hope you're keeping well and had an enjoyable Christmas. I hope you remember me. I entered at WSO SEO internship at this time last year. We've changed the name, so it's not SEO internship, it's finance research internship. I want to reach out and convey my thanks for the internship experience. It's been truly helpful over the last year in opening opportunities for me that would not have been possible without it. To start, it appeared as good experience on my resume when applying for a blank consulting strategy position, which was quite a competitive process. After the initial screening round, I found it a great talking point during the interview process. So he goes on to say, basically, not just from that process, but also from another process. Basically, people are curious, like, what did you do there? What did you learn? And so if you take it seriously, you write about some financial topics. It's just a good way to show that you had initiative, that you're really interested in finance, in a finance career. And so I think it does pay dividends long term to do something like this, especially even if you're out of school. The funny part is two of my people internally I hired for Wall Street Oasis full time out of that program. And we've hired another, I think, 3 people just on the WSO internal team itself from that. From that team itself, from that internship program. So it's not like we hire a bunch of people out of there, but if you do an amazing job and we happen to be looking for people at something else, that's potentially an opportunity to work with Wall Street Oasis directly too. So, any other questions? Let me see. There's some more comments here. Yeah, link to the internship application. Yeah, wallstreet.com/Wall Street Oasis Careers Internships with dashes in between. So check that out. You can also find it at the top under career in the bottom right. If you hover over career, the bottom right, WSO Finance Research Analyst Internship. It's right there. I didn't know we were going to do an ad for that, Amir. Kind of just came to me. Somebody asked about it. So yeah, I mean, we have some incredible interns that have really helped Wall Street Oasis with our content, with our financial content. So it's great to see. That's why I mentioned the resource section, because that's what basically all of their work kind of compiled in there. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it there. I have another call soon, so I unfortunately have to hop off. But I really appreciate all of you for joining, and hopefully we'll do it again. Let's do it again next Wednesday. We'll try to do 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, most Wednesdays, and try to hop on live and chat with all of you. So thanks so much for your time, and that'll do it.